Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Gameweek 29 deadline live stream. How is everybody doing? Once again, I do apologize for being late to my own live stream, but anyone that is regular will know that this is just a common theme. So hopefully you've gotten used to it by now. I can see quite a few people in the chat already, so get yourselves known in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Are you on a free hit right now? Are you going through without transfers? Be really interested to know, because I think a lot of the conversation right now, especially on this channel, has been free hit, free hit, free hit. I'm really interested about how other people are going about their game week. So let me know, what are your plans right now? And also, what is your current free hit draft? Of course, we're going to go through my current draft. It's a little bit template, it pretty much is, but we're going to also talk about some differentials out there that I think we could actually include in our free hit teams that aren't just like stupid ones for the sake of being differential, because I think the free hit in itself is a differential in its own. Now, remember, the FPL community is quite small in the vast scheme of things. So you're probably seeing some managers out there who have navigated this game week incredibly. They probably haven't taken any hits and they're fielding 10 or 11 players, and that is unbelievable if managers are doing that. And all I can do is tip the old hat to you on that one. But remember, it is bigger than the FPL community, and if you're worried that your free hit team's a little bit template, there are going to be a lot of managers still out there that are taking -8s, -12s, -16s only to get to 7, 8, 9 players. So I think that in itself is going to be enough for a reason for the free hit to be beneficial this game week. Could there be another time to do so? 100% there could be better times to do so. After selecting this team, I can't lie, I've been snoozing on it. I think I've made it officially this morning, because there's only a small pool of players that we can choose from, whereas later on in the season, there's going to be some exciting picks that we can get to. But look, I digress. This is all about Game Week 29. So let me know your questions in the comment section. It'd be awesome to have as many as you want. And because there's so many content creators on these deadline live streams, this isn't obviously the biggest stream in the world. This is an opportunity for you to get really, really deep with your questions. I don't mean that in terms of your life updates, although I can take those if you want to. I mean that as a case of really go specific with your questions, not just who are the best attackers. Let me know what your team looks like, and obviously anything that I can do to help out is the main thing. I don't want to fly by any of these questions. So all I'm going to do firstly, just to get a bit of get an idea on things, is I want to know, are you on free hit? I can't spell today. You on free hit? Are you on free hit game week 29? Yes or no? Sweet, I've put that in. Ha, who's that? FPL Troll. FPL Troll said, I am the FPL Troll. You cheese nacho are a melt. I mean, I don't mind that being in the chat. You can bring it back in if you want. That's pretty mad. FPL Troll, salute you for your trolling. Fair play. Keep it up. Right, let's get into this chat, because I have absolutely flown by it, so I do apologise. Let's get into it. Guys, my computer has absolutely frozen me. I do apologise. Cool, perfect, we're back. So, morning all. Antoine's asking, are 2 attackers, Elanga and Gibbs White and Awoni, too much? Who to pick for the third forward, Morris, Awoni or Muniz? Other 2 are Watkins and Tony. Okay, so first up, let's cover this. I'm not a huge fan on Awoni, however you want to pronounce it. For me, I just think it's a little bit worrying about his game time guaranteed minutes with Chris Wood being in the team. So I think the midfielders are the way to go. Elanga versus Gibbs White. I covered this off in previous videos. Gibbs White is just the safer pick. We think he's going to be on penalties unless Chris Wood takes him off him. And also the minutes are guaranteed. Elanga's underlying numbers are better. But of course, there is a little bit of worry about potential game time in there. So that's the only concern about Elanga. However, the interview from Nuno does suggest that they were better when they were on the pitch in the shape of Hudson-Odoi and Elanga. So I'm taking that as Elanga's at least going to get some decent minutes this weekend. In terms of Muniz, this is the worst time to buy him in my eyes. Up against the Spurs defence, who I'm not going to say are even leaky. Now that they've got their full strength back, I know Van der Ven's out, but Dragovic, whatever his name is, looks like an okay alternative. We have to remember, Broha is waiting in the wings, and also Raul Jimenez has returned. I think that could impact Munez's minutes this week. Weeks gone by, I think he's been an unbelievable option. This is probably the worst time to get him in. Cheeks, hope we're doing well. Fighter Jets, what a great name. Hope we're doing well. Rio, hi Nacho. Is it worth to hit to buy Elanga or Bowen or for Foden or wildcard in game week 31? Yes. So if you're in a position right now where you are looking to get rid of Phil Foden, I know it doesn't sound great, but it probably is the time to do so if you haven't already, mainly because they play Arsenal, obviously, in game week 30. And if you're planning a wild card in the 31 onwards, that is a really good time to bring him back into the team if you want to. Of course, just check the value that you're going to lose out on Foden. Now, in terms of the player that you're bringing in, you're looking to actually have him for game week 30 as well. And in terms of Bowen's fixture for game week 30, they're actually away against Newcastle, which I don't think is a terrible fixture for them. Whereas Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, just to give you an update who their fixture is in game week 30, they're at home against Crystal Palace. So I would argue that maybe the Nottingham Forest midfielders have better fixtures, but I do prefer Bowen over the likes of Elanga for game week 30 and 31. And what I want to do quickly is just come into the, what's it called? My team, just to get it on screens for everybody. And yes, it is going to be a little bit generic, and it is what it is. Unfortunately, the pool of players are very, very limited. So let's get on the screens right now. This is how we are looking. Let me know if it's not good, like in terms of the spectacle, or I can obviously zoom it in a little bit more. Just check this out a minute. Sorry. I can see 66% of people are on free hit as well, which is interesting to see. Right, so I'm just back to the chat. Sorry guys, it's been a really poor start to the morning. I'm not on it today. I'm going to be back on it now. It's just because the chat has been messed up, and I can also see it's only subscriber mode. And you know that although I would love to have you all as subscribers, which obviously I'm going to say if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, this is for everybody. This is an open market. So if you are not a subscriber, you don't have to be a subscriber to ask a question around here. Go drop a question in the comment section. Don't have to necessarily be a subscriber. So quickly go through the team, then we'll get back to the chat. And I do apologise for being all over the shop. So in terms of goalkeepers, we've gone for Flecken and Reguilon. Yes, Reguilon is yellow flagged right now, but he has been in training and we're expecting him to be available. Now, if you're wondering, why are people going for double defences? There isn't a good fixture this week, realistically. Looking at what we have available, Spurs is probably the one that I would like to double up on, but I want the midfielders. So obviously we're not going to go for double Spurs in defence. Outside of this, Luton will not keep a clean sheet in my eyes. Forest, I don't really think will keep a clean sheet either. Luton are good at home from a goal scoring perspective. Fulham, obviously not. And then West Ham versus Villa could be any scoreline. So, based on this, I think Brentford are just playing against one of the worst teams in the league in the shape of Burnley. So, I think in order to get full value with a free hit, you could, of course, change somebody like Flecken to Martinez, get yourself Villa coverage, Brentford coverage, Spurs coverage, and Luton coverage. But I think when you're free hitting, you do need to hedge against the team and just kind of go all in. And for me, it is going to be Brentford this game week. If they were to keep a clean sheet, I'm getting the full value having two players in that team. So that's why we're going for Flecken and Reguilon. But it's worth noting, I'm not sitting here saying that Brentford are actually going to keep a clean sheet. I just got to go for the one that actually makes sense with the team. Pedro Porro is currently in. I don't mind Romero. He's good on the bonus points. We could see a Thunder Bastard header maybe from a corner. That is always a possibility. But I'm going for Pedro Porro right now. I just feel confident in his attacking output, even if it has slightly regressed since Maddison has been in the team. And I think Doughty's just an obvious pick. Again, I don't see any clean sheets this game week. So we're looking for players that have that upside. Porro offers that, Reguilon with set pieces, and Doughty has proved his worth in terms of open play, chance, creativity. So Doughty is in. I think they could see 3 goals, but could I also see Luton scoring 2? Yes, and Doughty has been the heartbeat of all good things at Luton. Moving into the midfield, it's always been the same. Bowen, Maddison and Son have just been in all teams. There has been a few rumours about Maddison not training, but it sounds like, and the Twitter account is Paul O'Keefe, who is a little bit of a Spurs correspondent in a way, has said that they're just managing him and the expectation is he will be available for the weekend. So sounds like Maddison's absolutely fine. And in terms of Elanga, he's the upside pick for me this week. I do feel like the 4th midfielder or 5th is where the free hit can get the real edge this game week. And for me, I just feel like Elanga is the one that I want to go for. So in that sense, Elanga for me is in. Gibbs White is a safer pick on penalties, guaranteed minutes. And we might get a team leak before the deadline. Remember, Forest are kicking off at 3 and the deadline is at 1:30. Do not panic. The deadline isn't in 19 minutes. So if you want to go safe, I would say probably Gibbs White is the route to go for. Elanga for me, though, based on underlying numbers, is just a bit more of an exciting pick. Yes, Brighton wasn't good, but he only played for 29 minutes. But outside of that, he had an expected goal involvement of 0.72 against Liverpool, 0.21 against Villa, 1.38 against West Ham, 0.86 against Newcastle. So we're seeing some good numbers when he does start and play 90 minutes for Forest. And after seeing what Semenyo done against Luton on that wing, the thought of Elanga being on that side, I do think is quite an exciting prospect. Is it a risk? Yes, because we have a certain Kudos first on the bench. He's my pick. Paqueta is obviously a safe pick with penalties, but after seeing what Kudos done in the Europa League, sometimes when you're free hitting, you want to go for the fun players, hence why Elanga's in the team and Mohamed Kudos. Numbers are okay, 0.32, 0.62, 0.62. Like, he doesn't get the goal threat that I think a lot of us do assume with Kudos, but I do think he is a brilliant option this week. And there has been a lot of talk about maybe starting with a 3-5-2 formation, taking Morris out of the team, because when we look at his numbers, 0.63, 0.28, 0.83, they're decent numbers to be fair. And at home, the numbers are pretty consistent at home. And that's the scary thought about Morris. I know a lot of people who haven't free hitted, and Morris is one of those players that has been in since game week 28 due to the double. And if you were to free hit this game week and not have Colton Morris, you do need to know that if Morris does well, that could be the difference between your free hit actually being a major failure, because even though you might have a starting 11, some of those really highly owned players like Colton Morris could be the ones that actually negatively affect your free hit. In terms of the bench, Martinez, I can't lie, I just had so much cash to spend that I ended up just chucking Martinez in just to spend all the money. Kudos. Williams, I think, is just an offensive defender. I don't see any clean sheets, so I'm just going for offensive defenders, and Kufal just for safety of minutes. So that's the free hit team. I know it's generic. I do apologize if you were here maybe for a crazy pick. We'll go through some differentials in a minute, but that is currently how the team's looking. Let me know your thoughts. Let's get back into the comment section, because I'm aware I've been so selfish the last 10 minutes talking about my own teams. Let's get back into it. So right from the top, we're working our way down. Lalex, hope we're doing well. Only got 9 players, so expecting a small red arrow. Should I play safe and captain Son, or go for a more exciting pick like Bowen and Tony? Well, I think all 3 of those are great options. Do know that I think Son's ownership is probably going to be the most by far. It probably will be over 200%. Well, not over, but it will be around 180 or whatever. I think it'll be very, very high. So I think you just play safe, go for Son. But of course, if you have that feeling that Tony's going to really go off against Burnley, then that would be my preference over Bowen myself. Alan, should I start Bailey or Kudos? I would go for Kudos. He's the one that I would go for of the 2. I think Bailey's a great option, but I'm more excited about Kudos as an option. Dean, hope you're doing well, my friend. Aaron, on a free hit, should I start Gibbs White or Douglas Luiz? If you're on a free hit and you're starting Gibbs White or Douglas Luiz, I would actually go for Gibbs White personally. I think Douglas Luiz, with the injuries to McGinn and obviously Kamara being out long term, we might see a slightly further back Douglas Luiz in this team. Again, I'm only making assumptions right now based on availability of players. Whereas I think Gibbs White is always going to be in offensive positions against a Luton team who just can't stop conceding goals. So my preference is Gibbs White this week. Victor, good day, mate. I hope you're doing well. Firejets, wow, I thought free hit would be easy. Never knew trying to fill 3 final players would be so difficult. Yeah, realistically, if you take a look at the team here, it's only Elanga and maybe like a Region and the 5th midfield spot, which a lot of people are debating. I don't think many people have that much argument against Doughty, Pedro Porro, Bowen, Maddison, Son, Tony, Watkins. I think they picked themselves. Oh, Watkins. Yes, Watkins, sorry. Okay, so what should you do with Watkins if you're on free hit and if you're not on free hit? We've had nothing on Watkins, unless we're going to get something on Twitter between now and the deadline, which I'll be very surprised about because, of course, they are playing on the Sunday. It's really annoying they're not playing today because we might have actually had some sort of team leaks. Just checking right now to see if there's anything online, and there is literally nothing. So we're going to go on the assumption that he is going to be touch and go for the game. If you're free hitting, I would just put him in. I'd put him into your teams and ensure that you have a solid first sub. If he does play, that ownership is just going to kill you this game week, because those that aren't free hitting are absolutely going to have him. So put Watkins in your team, start him, but make sure you have a very, very good first sub, and also take a little bit of thought about the second sub, because take my team, for example. If Watkins wasn't to play, and the assumption on Reguilon, who might start, actually doesn't, all of a sudden I'm using 2 players on my bench. So you need to be very, very, very careful about who your first sub is. So in this case, I've taken a lot of thought about putting Kudus as my first sub, as my Watkins replacement. If you're not free hitting and you have Watkins in your team, based on the information we have, you absolutely cannot sell him. You have to keep him in your team and hope for the best. My general thought, I think he'll start. It looked like a wound, and I don't necessarily think that it is going to be anything terrible. And I just think you're really going to kick yourself if you do sell him, and then all of a sudden he comes back and plays, does well, and then you're looking at game week 30 without Ollie Watkins, because you might be in a position where you're looking to wildcard in game week 31, where somebody could argue moving away from Watkins is actually okay over that period. So for me, if you're free hitting, you put Watkins in your team and you have a very, very good first sub. If you have him and you're not free hitting, I would not be selling him. I would keep him in your team and just pray to the FPL gods that he is starting. So that is my thought process on that one there. Jonah, morning Nacho, not on a free hit. Would you do Solanke and Foden to Tony and Maddison for a -4? Yes, I do like those moves. Solanke obviously in game week 30 has a decent fixture at home against Everton, but I don't mind those moves at all. And also Foden against Arsenal in game week 30 isn't necessarily a fixture I look at and be like, oh my God, you need Foden. The question is, are you wildcarding after this period to maybe get your team back to some of those essential players? Even if you don't wildcard, I think the 2 players that you're bringing in are very good. And remember, Maddison is at home against Luton in game week 30, so I think that is worth the -4 in itself. Thomas, choose one between Kudus, Bailey and Elanga. Well, based on my screen right now, my team, I can't really say anything other than Elanga. But what I will say to you is, I'm going off my own gut feeling that he starts. If you have a bit of a worry about his game time, then my recommendation probably is going for Kudus. Based on David Moyes' quotes, he thinks that he's getting back to his best right now off the back of the African Cup of Nations. And we are seeing the Kudus that we saw previously. So I think it is a good time to go Kudus if you haven't. Gordon, thoughts on Romero instead of Pedro Porro? Don't mind it at all, to be honest with you. Do not mind it. If we come into the actual defenders this season, just to get a bit of an idea on how they are performing. So first up, we need to remind ourselves, Romero is in the top 10, I believe. And when we actually look at bonus points, so in terms of goals scored, Romero's top. Remember that. He is a goal-scoring centre-back. He has scored more than Gabriel, and we all talk about how unbelievable the Arsenal defenders are for goal scoring. Well, Romero scored 4 goals, so he is one of the best around. And when it comes to bonus points as well, you will see Romero actually trumps Donald Trump. Romero has got 15 bonus points, which is ridiculous considering he is a centre-back. So I have no arguments whatsoever with maybe some people looking at the free hit thinking, ugh, it's so generic. Maybe one of the plays that you could go for is going for Romero. And I'll tell you what, maybe even going for a certain, this boy, I can't pronounce his name, Radu Dragusin, 0.1% owned, guaranteed to play this week in the absence of Van der Ven. If you're fancying a little bit spicy this week, maybe this is your man. I have no underlying numbers on him because his minutes have been 49. So I cannot sit here and say to you he is a beast in terms of set pieces, whether Tottenham are going to go for him or not. That is just one of those YOLO picks that, to be honest with you, could be the one at 4.2 million. So do not be buying him if you're not free hitting, because Van der Ven will be back after the international break. But if you want a bit of a crazy pick, don't mind Dragusin as a bit of an option at 0.1%. Imagine if that goal goes in. So to answer your question, Pedro Porro is like the safe lock, and I do think his ownership's not as big as you think. He's only 24% owned, so it isn't like every man and his dog has Pedro Porro. But Romero is one of those that is a bit of a sleeper pick for sure. Robin, I have 9 players, bringing in Maddison and 1 for -4. I don't have Watkins. Do you think he starts? Robin, we haven't got any information annoyingly, but my assumption is that he does start. I'm just going to make that assumption, but I'm literally going off like a gut feeling there. Bringing in Maddison and 1 forward for -4. I don't mind bringing in Watkins, but I understand the worry, especially going into the fixtures of Watkins. It isn't a great time to be buying him. 30 is good, but then no matter what anyone says, I know people talk about Watkins doing well in any fixture, but this ain't great fixtures, is it really? Like, you're coming up against one of the worst fixtures possible in the shape of Chelsea. No, of course not. Obviously, City and Arsenal are the terrible ones for Watkins. Kingo, I've got 10, including Watkins and all the big hitters, for an 8-point hit. Still have my free hit, but trying to save it. Pretty torn on whether to add it. No, Kingo, if you've got 10 players and you've taken the -8 and you've got all the big boys, I would just let it run. I know a lot of very, very good managers out there that are not activating their free hit because they're in a very similar situation to yourself. I think you're pretty committed now. I would go for that and then maybe look to play the free hit and maybe game week 34 with some attractive double game weeks for the likes of Newcastle and Man United. Remember, those fixtures haven't been confirmed yet. They are totally dependent on the FA Cup, but it is worth noting that that could be a great time to use that free hit. So in your position, I would just roll what you've done and back the logic that you have. Mortal Technique, if it was only one message... Oh, sorry, that's the one previous. Kudos instead of Bowen. I prefer Bowen personally. I do prefer Bowen. Adam, how confident are we on Region? He's pictured in training. Don't really know whether he is definitely playing, but if you are worried about him, but you want to go for the double Brentford, then realistically, the only defenders that I can recommend to you is going to be Rosselev. If we take a look at the options, remember they have so many injuries. Collins, I just could not touch personally. He is a bit of a unit, but I just can't see him doing anything offensively. So for me, Rosselev is probably the route to go for. Minutes are pretty locked, I think. There's no real assumption that will come out of the team. 4% owned, which is a really nice differential. So, yeah, if you're a little bit concerned about Region, do not mind Rosselev as a bit of an option. To be fair, I think we're all overhyping Region a little bit. I think we all kind of think that he is, Leighton Baines, Trent vibes. Like, underlying numbers are good, but they're not, like, incredible. So do not worry if you want to go for Rosselev. I don't mind it at all if you want to go there. And again, it does feel like one of those weeks where the A or B option is going to massively dictate how you get on. So for example, I can just see it now. It'll be a case of Region versus Rosselev. One will get a 10-pointer, one will get a 2. Pedro Porro versus Romero, one will get a 10-pointer, one will get a 2. Alanga versus Gibbs White. It does feel like it's one of those weeks where if you're on the right side of the coin, you could go big this week. I just realised I am miles back on the chat, so I'm just going to try and fly through these right now. Dylan saying, sorry I've just joined. Are you already answered? But is Watkins going to be starting? Unfortunately, no news on Watkins for those that are asking. Because it's a Sunday game, I'll be very surprised if we do get any sort of major updates. But I will keep you updated if we do see anything, of course. Should I captain Tony or Son? Reese, all about your risk appetite a little bit. For me, I think that Son is still the best option while he's playing as a number 9. I know there's a lot of talk about Richarlison coming back. I do not see him coming back into the starting 11 and replacing Son and pushing him out onto the left. I think a lot of Spurs fans are saying Son is just playing way too good to not be played as the number 9. So yeah, Son for me is still the one that has that high ceiling. We see it week in, week out when he does play. Mads, I think it's a boring to captain Son this game week. Any other, kudos or Bowen instead. Yeah, if you want to go a little bit different, Bowen is a great alternative. He'll be my preference over kudos. Sujan saying, I bought Watkins, but he seems to injured. Could have rolled my transfer for game week 30. If you bought Watkins, I would keep him, my friend. Even if he doesn't play this week, game week 30 at home against Wolves, with the injuries that they do have, is still a really good fixture, so I don't mind that at all. Adam, is Triple Forest too much? Alanga, Gibbs White and Wood. Don't mind it. This Luton team obviously are very, very poor. Let me get up some of the underlying numbers here, and I got a feeling the stats might come up on your screens. Fingers crossed. This is Fantasy Football Fix for those that are wondering, by the way. So if we take a look at home form in itself, based on per 90 minutes, remember this is expected goals conceded per 90 minutes at home, Luton 1.83. It's so bad. It's so bad. They are really one of the worst teams defensively. And in terms of shots conceded, they average 14 shots conceded per 90 minutes at home. I think there is a great logic to go for at least one Forest. And when we look at the free hit, I do feel like Forest are the ones where a lot of people who aren't free hitting are going to struggle to get to because they're not really that appealing beyond this period. So I think that's why having a Forest midfielder or forward is the right move to go for as your hedge against those that are not. Could it pay off? Yes. I think goals are going to get scored in this game. If we take a look at Forest's form away from home, now it's a little bit difficult because of course they've had the change in manager, change in tactics, change in strategy, but we're obviously going to be focusing on goals scored. So in terms of expected goals per 90 away from home, Forest rank here 1.14 expected goals away from home. Now, I can't lie, I have no idea where Nuno came in, but let's take a look from, let's say, game week 15. So I'm almost certain he would have been in by then, maybe even like game week 12. But game week 15 onwards, we're looking at Forest, and yeah, so the expected goals are very similar, about 1.2 expected goals per 90 minutes away from home. Against that Luton defence, I think there are going to be goals for Forest in this game, so I do not mind people going for the triple up. I, for one, probably would rather go for one, probably just one. Porro or Udogie, I personally would go for Pedro Porro, but it's worth noting, I do think we're in a position where Udogie isn't necessarily a chance creator. If anything, I think he's going to be the goal scorer in this team. Martin, why not Ward-Prowse? Is Villa are susceptible to set pieces? It's a really good shout. Just for me, I just don't get excited by Ward-Prowse as an option. But if you have that gut feeling, then I don't mind it at all. You are correct. In terms of set pieces conceded, I think Villa are one of the top 3 worst. So yes, I do like that logic if you want to go there. Carlos, do you not think Muniz will start? No, it isn't that. I think Muniz is a really good option. And one of those where he is just putting up some unbelievable numbers. If we get Muniz up a minute, has he been bought by many managers? I don't think he has. I thought Muniz would have been bought by more managers, to be honest with you. Just getting Muniz up a minute on your screens. So if you take a look at Muniz here in terms of his underlying numbers, you can see here, involvement 0.58, 0.31, 0.37, 0.79, 0.88, really solid underlying numbers. And in terms of goals scored, like he's been on a bit of a hot streak since he's come into the team. So I don't mind him at all if you want to go there. I think he's his shot volume I don't think's on here. I can get it up on Fantasy Football Fix in a minute, but he's a really good option. The only reason why I'm a little bit worried about him, Raul Jimenez is back in the squad, and also there is a little bit of a rumour going around where if Fulham don't play Armando Broja today or something like that, they owe Chelsea a large sum of money based on the contract that they agreed. So there is a little bit of talk that maybe we're going to be in a position where they actually have to play Broja. Again, there's no absolute guarantee on that, but we'll have to see. More Trendy, thank you for monitoring the chat, by the way. Thank you so much. Will Shaw got the template 5 and Doughty, Porro, Moreo, and Areola. Think I'm on the free hit board line. What would you lean? Got the template 5 and Doughty. So you've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, even if you have to take a point sit, I wouldn't free hit in that case, mate. Especially if you've got the template 5. I think you're absolutely fine. Any thoughts on a Vissa Tony double up or Tony Wood? Yeah, so Vissa's numbers have been decent recently, to be honest with you. Like, if we get it up here, I appreciate that we can't really see this too well. We'll zoom in a minute. But in terms of the numbers for Vissa, he's putting up some good ones. Like, and he's going to get better with Tony in the team. Vissa this season's putting up 0.42 XG. Some solid numbers for Vissa. I do think he is a good option. And if you want to double up instead of going for Carlton Morris, I absolutely get it. My only worry about Vissa is, let's just get the boy up, is those minutes. It's just those minutes. I have no guarantee he's going to play the full 90. And I always want 90-minute men in my team when I am doing a free hit draft. And that's my only concern about Vissa, especially for those who haven't seen it. Mbeumo is past fit for this game. Honestly, if we had confirmation that Mbeumo was starting for Brentford, that would be my guy. He will be straight into his team. The only issue is I would not be surprised at all if we maybe saw him come on for like the last few bits. I just don't think we have any guarantees right now on that. So because of that reason, I can't recommend going in Mbeumo. And Vissa is just a little bit of worry for me in terms of his game time. That is all. That is the only concern. Just make sure I haven't gone past anything right now. Have I got morning Bailey or Elanga? I personally prefer Elanga of the two. TR, should I get a -4 to get Tony in for Haaland? Tony in for Haaland or Solanke? I'm using my wildcard in game week 31. Look, I know it's a scary prospect, but when we do look at the fixtures for teams, let me get these up for you. And again, if you're going to be wildcarding in game week 31, we're just looking at a 2 game week period here. Both Haaland and Solanke obviously blank in game week 29. So it's all about game week 30 in isolation here, of course. Let's just get that up. So if you were to keep Solanke, he would have Everton at home, whereas Haaland would have Arsenal away. I know it's a scary thing, but I personally would go for selling Erling Haaland. I know it's a scary prospect. The only thing I would say to you is how much value are you losing out on the player? That's the only thing I would say. Otherwise, I really do like that move of doing Haaland out and bringing him back in a wildcard later on. As always, guys, if you are enjoying this stream, please do consider dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. It'll be awesome to have you as a subscriber this season. As I've said, I've kept the chat open for anybody, so you don't have to be a subscriber, but I will massively appreciate it. If you're not, Jonas, would you consider playing Wood instead of Morris? He scored 2 in the reverse. Yeah, don't mind Wood at all. I think he's a little bit of a joke, isn't he, where we all laugh about Wood, but I think if there's ever Wood going to get a haul, it is going to be this week. I'll just go for Morris because of the guaranteed penalties and home form's been pretty decent this season. Is Morris to Wood a good idea? No, I would keep Morris if you do have him. I just think that's a very, very sideways move unless you are doing it in your free hit. That's the only other thing that I would consider. Really say, man, should I play Kudos or Elanga? Elanga for me. Just trying to fly through some of the questions. I do apologise, guys, for those that are new in the chat. I'm just trying to get through some of these. With Richarlison back, does that make Son a worse captain? No, I think Richarlison might get some minutes at the end, but I don't think it makes Son any worse. Cooper, Solanke to Tony for -4, free hit in 34, you wildcarded in 28. Don't mind it. The only thing I will say to you is obviously you have to look beyond this game week in isolation. So Tony then has United, Brighton, Villa, Sheffield United. I don't mind them fixtures at all. I think he could easily match Solanke over that period. And of course you are getting it this week. The only issue is it is for a -4. So I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Sailing saying, why is no one having Douglas Luiz? It's mainly because of the injuries to the Aston Villa team. With the injury to McGinn, the suspension of McGinn, the absence of Kamara, we are expecting Douglas Luiz to have a bit more, not necessarily a holding role, but a bit more responsibility to be just an all-action midfielder in there while they have a lot of their defensive mids out. And for that reason, I think it does slightly water down the value of Douglas Luiz. Watkins to Duran, no. Okay, I would only ever do that move if we saw Duran actually going to be guaranteed playing and Watkins out for multiple game weeks. Otherwise, I just don't think it is worth it. And for those that are asking about, obviously, Maddison, it sounds like he has just been rested during the week and he is going to be available for the game. So don't be too concerned about it in my eyes. Just making sure I've covered off most bits. Again, Mbeumo is going to be back soon, we think. Maybe this game, but a little bit too early to put him in our teams. Will Russell start? Yes, I don't see any reason why he won't. His minutes have been very, very decent. Tiger and Guna, I've got Virgil. Who should I replace him with? Do you need to sell him first and foremost? Because in game week 30 beyond, the Liverpool fixtures are really, really good. If you have to bring in a defender, it all comes down to what your strategy is, mate. I don't like any defenders this week. I can't lie. I couldn't sit here and tell you which one is going to keep a clean sheet. Youssef, would it be crazy to put Wood or Elanga as my captain? Luton just played an extremely tiring game and they may have so many injuries. Yeah, this is why I'm all in on Forest. They've had a week off rest. I want at least one of their attackers. If you want to go captaincy, I don't mind it at all. But I think just owning a Forest midfielder or an attacker in itself is probably differential enough. But of course, if you need to chase rank, is what you've said, then I do not mind that move. Aaron, kudos for Elanga. I've covered that one, mate. I'm going for Elanga myself. Unless I get slight worry about his minutes and maybe he's benched, then I think I would start kudos instead of him. I think we're getting closer to catching up with the chat finally. Again, thank you so much for everybody that has been tuning into this. It's been a good stream so far. If you are enjoying it, please do consider dropping a like. As always, we're into the back end of the season. For those that wonder about my rank, currently ranked 70k in the world, so we're on a decent run recently. Phil, apologies, we've probably talked about this in detail already, but I have only just joined. Do we have news on Watkins' injury? No, unfortunately we don't, mate, and I don't think we will get any between now and the deadline, annoyingly. Vijnesh is saying Solanke to Tony, Foden to Elanga -4. I don't mind it, but Elanga long term, I just don't know exactly what his minutes are going to be like. But for this game week in isolation, I could see that -4 being paid back, yes. Me too, I hope you're doing well, my friend. Laylux, I've had Watkins since game week 1. Not sure we can let him go out of loyalty, even with his hard fixtures. Yeah, hey, we've seen Watkins go big at the start of the season. I remember there was a period here where we all sold him for Darwin Núñez and he went big. So he is Mr. Consistent. Look at the goals, 16 goals, 15 assists, one of the best options in the game, period. Kulu is a better option than Maddison. Ishnel, I don't mind that call at all if you want to go there. For me, though, which is quite a surprising stat, actually, is that Maddison has returned in every single away game. I didn't actually realise this until I'd done a stream not long ago, but when he's played, obviously he's had a bit of timeouts, so it's a very small sample size, but you can see here, every single away game he has returned. So he's Mr. Consistent away from home. And I just think he is the heartbeat of the creativity in that team. Kudos for Paqueta. I think Kudos is the exact same thing as the Forest situation. Kudos can be viewed as Elanga. Probably the more exciting pick, the better probably attacking output. But a little bit more riskier for minutes. Paqueta is very similar to Gibbs White in the sense of guaranteed minutes, not as exciting of a pick, but probably the safer option. So it depends what kind of manager you are. Casper, I've taken a -4 hit for Porro and I now have 9 players, including Watkins. I have all the essentials apart from Bowen and Tony. Should I just save my free hit? Okay, so first and foremost, Bowen and Tony are obviously going to be highly owned assets in free hit drafts. So they are going to be quite detrimental. That sounds like an awful word to say. They're going to quite impact your overall rank if they do really well. It all depends on who you want to sell. If I had to buy one of the two, I probably would be more preference on maybe getting in Tony, but it depends who you're selling. The reason I was saying that is if maybe you're looking to wildcard in 31, maybe a move that you could do is maybe doing Haaland to Tony for 2 weeks and then wildcard in 31. Kenny, 2 out of Kudos versus Bailey versus Douglas Luiz versus Gibbs White versus Elanga. Well, I can break that down based on the team that they play for. So Bailey versus Douglas Luiz, I would probably rather go for the upside of Bailey. So Bailey in that case. Gibbs White versus Elanga, you can see on your screens, I prefer Elanga as the pick. And then Kudos over any Aston Villa midfielder. So I rank those as Elanga 1. I would probably have Kudos 2, Gibbs White 3, Bailey 4, Douglas Luiz 5. Bruce, -8 for 9 starters or free hit. Bruce, that's right on the cusp. All depends who your 9 are. For those that are asking about Elanga or Kudos, to kind of answer the question, based on my team selection, I am going for Elanga at the time of recording. But if we were to get any sort of idea that maybe his minutes are at risk, then I would look at starting Kudos over Elanga. The reason why I'm going for Elanga right now, when we are going for a free hit, I want to look at maybe that slight edge that I can get on managers that aren't free hitting. Do I see a lot of managers that aren't free hitting going for double West Ham midfield? No. I don't think there is a priority for them to go for double West Ham midfield. Where do I think they can't get to? And that is going to be the Forest midfielders against a Luton team who are the second worst at home for expected goals conceded. So I'm just going to chase the potential of Elanga. But if we do get any concerns, I actually feel more tempted to do Elanga to Gibbs White than that of Kudos, just to get myself some investment in the Forest attack. Just again, guys, for those that wonder, just checking to see if there is any information right now on the Watkins situation or maybe any Forest leaks, because of course it is a 1:30 deadline, and you can see we could get some information here. Now, realistically, what could come out? Well, we may potentially get some news that Mbeumo starts, and if that was the case, then oh my god, he would be in for me, I think, just taking that risk. And the big one as well, we could get some news about who starts in that Forest attack. That's the big one. As I see, I can't see anything on here that is suggesting any leaks right now. But again, remember, we've got 2 hours until the deadline, so I'm not probably going to be going up until the deadline. So my advice is make sure you are following some of the big accounts on Twitter if you want to stay active with all of the good stuff. And again, for those that have just joined the chat, please, if you're not already, drop a like on the stream if you're enjoying it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're into the business end of the season, and I'm looking to finish top 10k this season, and hopefully I can provide some value to you guys. Right, let's get through some other stuff, because I do not want to skip past anything. Fancy a Zuma bullet header. I think West Ham will be purring on Sunday. Don't mind the Zuma bullet header at all on that one. That is a shout. Mitchell, got a new question on free hitting. If I make a transfer then free hit, do I keep that person? Yeah, so if you free hit, then that just gets rid of any... So for example, if you were to make a transfer, then you free hit, that would keep the transfer and it would get rid of any potential points hits that you've taken. But then, of course, the following game week, your team will revert back to its original team. So team you can see on your screens here is my team in Game Week 29 free hit. This was my Game Week 28 team. I will come back to this team in Game Week 30. That is kind of the logic. Okay, that's not good. Okay, we're back. We're back. Don't know what happened there. Animations, more than all, was still contemplating using the wildcard, but think I'm sticking with my 8 players and see what happens. I think in that Game Week 34 doubles will have a higher upside over these games. I don't really like the wildcard this week. I do apologise. I'm not big on a wildcard this week. I think it'll be really tough. Is Gibbs White worth a punt? Do not mind Gibbs White at all in your teams. Luis Speed, do you think Watkins is okay? Currently playing with a 4 in midfield, or shall we play with a 5 in midfield, or maybe opt for Fofana for Burnley for a punt? Hey, don't mind Fofana at all. He's been in unbelievable form of late. If we take a look at it here, Detra Fofana, I mean, actually, I say that. He's only scored 3 goals, 1 assist, but his numbers have been okay. But look, I'm just not huge on the Fofana hype personally, but I do get it if you want to go there. I do not mind it. Is Reguilon definitely playing? No guarantees. And if you are worried about his game time, my recommendation would be going for Rosselev in that defence if you want to go there. Madison, a doubt. Sounds like he's just been not training just for preparation for the weekend in terms of managing his body. So based on what we've seen, I think he will start. Have you considered Dragazon in your team? Andrea, I have. I have been hyping him up earlier on today. Can't lie, no real reason behind it. I can't tell you whether he's good, whether he's bad, but all I know is that he's 0.1% owned. And as I mentioned, this feels like a week where people that are free hitting, it is going to be A versus B, and FPL is one of those very, very painful games. We don't have it nice in this game. We never have it where, oh, A gets 20 points and B gets 20 points. We all go home happy. It never is the case. We always have it where one goes amazing and one does terrible. So, for example, Kudos versus Paqueta, we're all stressing about it. In an ideal world, both score 20 points and we all are happy. No. That will not happen. Kudos will get 20, Paqueta will get 2, or the other way around. Same's going to apply for the Spurs defender. I can guarantee you, we were all talking about Pedro Porro, we're all talking about Romero, and it'll be this guy that gets the monster haul. It is what it is sometimes in FPL. It is absolutely killer. Same's going to apply for the Forest midfielder. Alanga versus Gibbs-White. We're sweating over it. Lo and behold, I can see a situation where it's Hudson-Odoi that gets the 20-pointer. So it is going to be all about, can you get the right one with very little kind of logic behind it. I don't really see anybody coming off the back of this free hit and going, I told you so. I had all this research and this was the reason why you went for him. I think we're all going for the same pool of players and you just hope you get lucky. That is kind of the way it is this week, unfortunately. Siab saying punt on Werner on free hit. I just don't have absolute guarantee on his game time, and that's the reason being I could not suggest him in your teams. If you chose a Forest forward, would you choose Awoni, or Wood? I honestly don't know, just because I have no guarantees, mate, which one is going to be starting. Again, just taking a look right now to see if there is anything regarding guaranteed minutes, but I'm not really seeing anything, and I'm not really in the know enough to tell you who is more likely to start. So for that reason, I'm probably just going to say to you, probably avoid in general. Just avoid in general unless we do hear something. Oh, George is saying about free hitting this week then. Should I wildcard in game week 30 to get Salah back in? Okay, so the only reason why there's a little bit of like potential wait and see on Liverpool is just their involvement in other fixtures. So let me just go back onto the main screen a minute while I get up some Liverpool fixtures on the other one, because who knows what's on my internet history? Who knows? So I don't want to be revealing any of that. Okay, so let's get this up for you guys now. We're back. We're safe. We're safe. Okay, so give you a bit of an idea on potentially why we might not have to go there for Salah right now. So a reminder, we got the game tomorrow against Man United. I say we, I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm not a Liverpool fan. So United-Liverpool tomorrow. We'll get an idea on what Salah's minutes are then. 31st of March, we've got the international break. Then we've got game week 30 where Liverpool are at home against Brighton. We can make the assumption that Salah will get solid game time in that week, especially with him playing limited minutes of late. I think that's a great fixture for him to get like a full start. But again, no guarantees. The big thing that we have to do is consider after this. They then have Sheffield United at home 4 days later. Make your own assumptions whether Salah is going to be playing for that one, because 3 days after that, they have a huge game away against Man United. And this will be a Man United team that have the likes of Højlund back, some of the big guns back in that team. So I think that'll be an even more difficult fixture than maybe what it presents itself on your screens. So I could see a world maybe where Salah plays the game against Brighton, maybe is a sub in the Sheffield United game and then starts the United game. I'm not reading too much in the Europa League. However, we've seen Klopp actually go very heavy in the Europa League, which a lot of us are very surprised about. So wouldn't be surprised if he maybe looks at the Atlanta game and thinks, I need Mo Salah for that. And then 3 days after that, they have Palace. 4 days after, they have Atlanta. 2 days after that, that can't be right. 2 days after that, they have Fulham. Okay, so the fixtures are very hectic for Liverpool, and I do think minutes are going to be very difficult to predict over this period. So I wouldn't be wildcarding just to get Mo Salah in, just because of the fixtures. He is a beast. Sorry, fixtures. He is a beast, obviously, in terms of minutes, and he usually doesn't get injured. So if you were to invest in a Liverpool player, it would be Mo Salah. It is worth noting, but just be a little bit cautious. If you are making clear plans to get Mo Salah in your team, I would just say to you, look at the fixtures, because I just can't see Mo Salah playing the whole game in game week 30 against Brighton, all of 31 against Sheffield United, and all of 32. That basically is going to be 3 games in a week, and then a Europa League fixture 3 days after that, or 4 days after. So just tread a little bit carefully with Mo Salah, but I think he is a player that we obviously do want in our teams. And obviously, when we are looking at other teams, the ones that are the alternatives, the Fodens, the Sakas, they all have very similar fixture schedules as well. So maybe just maybe avoiding Man City and Arsenal is the route to go, because their fixtures in the Champions League cannot afford them to rest any players, whereas Liverpool could in the Europa League potentially. Everyone asks about Watkins. Unfortunately not. I would love to be best mates with Unai Emery, but unfortunately he diverts my calls. So I don't have anything on Watkins. And because they're playing on Sunday, I just don't think we'll get anything. If I had to bet right now, I would say he plays. But that is no actual insider knowledge. I do apologise. Morris to Vissa, I think it's very sideways. I think what you're doing is this. You're selling a player like Morris, who's got guaranteed game time on penalties, and I'd argue an okay fixture at home against Forest. And Luton are in a situation where they have to win this game against Forest. It is a very, very important game for them. But playing midweek, there are going to be tired legs. Going for somebody like Vissa, who I think Vissa is a good option, but we need to remember, is a little bit of a early substitute in Brentford games, so we could see a situation where he does come off a little bit early, especially with the likes of Mbuemo on the bench waiting in the wings. So I think it's a little bit too sideways for me to consider that move. I want to put a poll in. I'm going to put in here, who is your Game Week 29 El Capitano? We're going to fire that in the chat. So I think Son's an obvious one. I think Tony's an obvious one. I think a lot of people are probably a little bit scared about Watkins, so I'm not going to put him in. I think Bowen. Now, I can only put 4 options. So I'm going to put other. And if you go for other, just literally drop in the chat who your other option is in terms of captaincy for Game Week 29. I think there's going to be 70% on Son. Not trying to influence it, I'm just saying I think it'd be, if I had to guess right now, I think it's going to be about 70-75% on Son, maybe even more potentially. Paddy, why no Tony captain? I just prefer Son as a midfielder. Main reason being, and on penalties as well. Obviously remember, an extra point for a goal and a clean sheet for midfielders. Mitchell saying, mind if I ask, what's your plan now? Are you wildcard in 31 or is 34 still the strategy? Well, neither of those. 35 is actually the strategy for me. Let me tell you why. Let me get up this. Okay, so let me get up this bad boy screen. Here we go. Here we go. Right, let me just sort this out a minute for you all. By the way, this is fpl.team. They have collaborated, as some would call it, with Planet FPL. If you don't watch Planet FPL, what are you doing? Make sure you're following them. They are, James and Serge are just some of the nicest guys around. So they've teamed up with them. Now, what we want to see is this. This is the projections. Now, I hope you can see that. But if you can't, let me just zoom in for 2 seconds. And then we'll zoom back out. So this is the projections based on Planet FPL, which is James. But again, these are not locked in stone. These are all dependent on FA Cup results and other things. But at the time of recording right now, we have got a double in 34, and again, these are only projections. Please do not kind of read them as absolute gospel. But Game Week 34, a potential double for Palace, which is quite favourable at home with a new attacking manager. I think there's going to be quite a lot of interest in Elise and Eze, for example. Man United double, Newcastle and Sheffield United. I think Onana springs to mind as an option. I think Højlund and maybe Garnacho or Bruno Fernandes. Newcastle in Game Week 34 with United and Palace, and Sheffield United with Burnley and United. Game Week 35, a potential small double game week, and then Game Week 37, which we knew already was going to be most likely the big double game week later on in the season. So what's my current strategy? Well, being a manager who was free hitting in Game Week 29, I've put myself in a position where if I need to bring in Mo Salah, I can. If we come up to the teams right now, this is my team Game Week 29 without the free hit. This is my team for Game Week 30. I would not have 2 free transfers because I'm obviously free hitting. And for those that don't know, if you were sat there right now with 2 free transfers, you free hit, you don't come back to 2 free transfers the following game week, you only have 1. So that is a little bit of a thing that managers don't realise. So my team for game week 30 is a little bit ropey. If I came to the assumption that Mo Salah is just a beast and he's going to play every single minute for Liverpool, then my current strategy would be to sell Saliba. Yes, I know, not good selling an Arsenal defender, but it would be to bring in Gusto, who, remember, later on for Chelsea is potentially going to have a double in 35 and in 37. So he's a good long-term option with the assumption Reece James is just done for the season based on his injuries. It's honestly woeful. And then it would be a case of selling Saka or Foden. Let's say for the time being, I'm looking to potentially sell, let's just say Phil Foden, just as an option. I would have the money with a -4 to bring in Mo Salah for game week 30 and beyond, and my team would look something like this. Then coming into game week 31, I would still have the Arsenal defence, and my team would look like this. I could roll a transfer. So you get an idea of what I would do. The plan would actually be to dead end my team into game week 34. Now, if these double game weeks were to happen in 34, I would probably look to invest in Man United come game week 33 with that decent away game against Bournemouth. So, for example, if I was to hold Solanke until this point, Solanke in game week 33 is against United. I think Solanke to Højlund could be a really good move. Have him for the 33 fixture and for the double in 34. I also could, if I wanted to, look to sell one of my midfielders. Could potentially be a Bukayo Saka if we're seeing the Champions League really cause fatigue or rotation in that Arsenal team, and look to invest in a Bruno Fernandes and get myself the triple up. Or I can maybe look to make a goalkeeper transfer and bring in Onana, but we're currently having Dubravka in my team and Nick Pope ruled out for the long term. I kind of think Dubravka would just be enough for this double game week, and then looking to do Crystal Palace assets. Outside of this, I would wildcard in game week 35 with investment in Brighton players, Chelsea players, and of course those players that double in game week 37, because of course wildcarding in game week 35 would lead to a bench boost in game week 37, and I would be looking to have, even though Arsenal would have a tricky double, triple Arsenal most likely, I would look to have some Bournemouth assets, I would look to have triple Chelsea, I would want triple Liverpool. I'm saying triple, there aren't enough slots for all these players, but you get where I'm coming from. It will be all about investing in those players that double in 37 for me to activate my bench boost to have 15 doublers in that period. I've waffled enough. Let's get back to answering your questions. I do apologise, one and all. If I waffle too much, just tell me and I will stop, because I am a waffler all the time. Just making that screen a little bit bigger for you guys. You have it sorted. Perfect. We back, baby. If you haven't already, please do consider dropping a like. We always aim for, what's it called? We always aim for 100 likes on a stream. However, I am conscious that I never hit it. So if you could, it'd be awesome to drop a like on this stream. We always try and aim for 100, but I don't think I've ever hit 100 on a stream. So it would be cool if we could get there today. Right, let's answer some more of these questions. I'm going to work my way up a minute because I'm conscious I have missed a lot of recent ones. Is Haaland essential? Absolutely not. Blanks this game week has Arsenal in game week 30. From game week 31 onwards, then that is probably a good time to look to bring him back into your teams. I fancy Vissa over Morris. What do you think? I don't think that's a bad logic at all. My only concern is Mbeumo back in the squad this week. Could we potentially see Vissa an early substitution, because he is historically one of those that does come off around the 70 to 80th minute mark, but I do like Vissa up against this Burnley defence. Mate, if you were chasing rank and you were on a free hit, what would your 11 be? If you were chasing rank and you were on a free... Oh, I love this question. Okay, let's put this up. Oh, by the way, I've just noticed we've hit 115. You guys are absolute legends. Thank you so much for... That's actually awesome. Oh. What the? Did anyone else just see that? I know we can do... I mean... Can we do the fireworks? Is that up? Or guys, Katy Perry fireworks right now. We have hit over 100 likes and we're celebrating with fireworks tonight. Thank you so much for hitting the like button on this stream. I appreciate it. One more fireworks. Oh my God, I look like an idiot. One more fireworks. Oh my God. Okay, I look like an idiot right now trying to create fireworks and they aren't even happening. Fireworks, please. There we go. There we go. We're back. We're back. Okay, let's get back to this. This is really interesting. If you were looking to chase rank right now, what would my free hit team? I love this question. Okay, let's get this up. What would my team look like? We're going to do it on here just because it's... Oh, no. I tell a lie. We'll use the planner over on the official FPL site. For those that are wondering, this is in collaboration with Fantasy Football Fix. It's so good. It literally syncs up with the official site, so you can see like the planner bit there. It's an absolute joke. It's so good. Right. What would my team look like if I was chasing rank on a free hit? This is the exciting part that we want to do. So there's a few players that we just can't, as I would say in a nice way, mess around with. We just can't mess around with. Okay, so again, if we are chasing rank, you have to double up with a defense. So I think the Brentford defense is not amazing, is it? So where else could we see chasing potential? Maybe Villa. Maybe Villa could be where we go. So if I was really chasing it, could we see a godlike performance from Martinez potentially? So, oh no, he's already in the squad. So firstly, let's say Martinez is in and we're going to chase probably a little bit of upside with an Aston Villa defender. Now, realistically, I cannot sit here and be confident that this guy plays. But if he does, I think he's a great option. So Alex Moreno in, but please do be cautious that he could get rotated at any time. So be very, very wary. As I said, if you're tracing rank, my boy's in. He's in. Dragerson, with a name like that, you have to be in the team. 0.1% owned. You're still getting the Spurs coverage. And who knows, you might get a Thunder Bastard header. So he is in. Doughty, again, I just don't really see many defenders where they're worth going against Doughty. So we've gone for double Aston Villa, but be cautious. Alex Moreno is a risk for minutes. If you want guaranteed game time, Concert would be a logical pick there. I have no idea if cash plays it is worth noting. So that would be the upside chasing defense. Moving into the midfield, again, I think probably you've got to keep Son. If you don't fancy Maddison, because I think there is a world where Maddison is not the one, Johnson, based on a lot of people I've spoke to, has been in fantastic form, and it would be a very big surprise if he was to leave that Spurs team. So Johnson's in. I think he could be a great option this game week, a bit of a differential. I mean, Alanga's already in my team, and I already think he's a good differential, so I'm going to keep him in the team. I do apologise if that's a little bit boring, but I think he is a differential in himself. Now, Bowen, again, a differential could be Kudos if you want to go there. In terms of the forwards, Muniz is the obvious one if you want to go a little bit different. This is probably the route I would go. I would go for Muniz up top and hope that he starts with the return of Raul Jimenez. I just need to drop my coffee off the desk. And I feel like this is missing a little bit of spice. So we're going to take Watkins out. And I think we're going to put a certain Christopher Wood in. If I was chasing rank, it would look something like that, I think. It's got a few of the essentials. It's got a few of the coverage in Nottingham Forest. It's got some lowly owned players in Dragerson. Let me know in the comment section right now who is missing in this. Please let me know in the chat. Right, I'll give it like a minute, 30 seconds. Just going to have a quick sip of this coffee. Let me know any other differentials that you think could be in a free hit team chasing rank. This is what I've gone for right now off the top of my head. But I would be really interested to know if there are any obvious ones. I think when you are chasing rank, you still need to give yourself a little bit of coverage. And I think that is the case with Son, with Bowen, with Tony. I think you probably are being a bit too risky if you were to go against it. So yeah, for example, what we could do is we could do Kudos instead of Bowen, for example, if you really wanted to go there. Another argument you could make is maybe doing Vissa over Tony, but I still prefer Tony over Vissa personally. Just being on penalties is always a big factor when we are looking at it. And again, while you guys just quickly drop any sort of defensive picks, sorry, differential picks. I'm just going to quickly check on Twitter to see if there are any conversations about players. Is there anything? No, there's been no chat right now, so no. Nothing. But it's fine. Origi is needed. Awoni, Bailey for sure. Don't mind the Bailey chat, actually. Gibbs White is people will go Elanga. Yeah, I think Gibbs White is a really good differential as well, actually. He could definitely be in there. Gibbs White. Yeah, I think he could definitely be an option as well. Struggling between MGW and Elanga. Toffolo, Sharik, Toffolo. Toffolo's a good shout. Toffolo's a really good attacking option if you want to go instead of instead of Williams. Bailey for sure. Rosalev, Bailey or Elanga. Any Visser shouts? Yes, don't mind Visser, but my only worry is the early substitutions. That is the big concern right now in terms of Visser, which I would be just a little bit hesitant about. Bad Panda, bring in Watkins for 10 players or Saka out for Maddison. Bring Watkins in for 10 players. Do you mean buying him? Let me know, Bad Panda. Do you mean buying Watkins this week? And would I sell Saka for Maddison? I don't mind it because the next two I expect Maddison to outscore him. But just note that after that, there are... there is Luton at home, so you are going to want Saka back in your team. Rosalev in for Moreno. Yes, Rosalev is a really good differential shout. Let me put my team back up on the screen just for maybe people that are joined in and thinking, what the bloody hell is that team? Embremo is starting, I reckon. Maybe. That'll be a huge surprise if he does come straight in. Paul Smith, Hudson-Odoi. Yeah, Hudson-Odoi, I would expect him to come back in if Elanga does. Maybe a doggy over Dragusin. Yep, I think that's a good shout. Actually, I was saying, thinking Bailey or Kudos or Paqueta or Douglas Luiz or more. Oh, what? For three? Which three would you pick? Okay, so look, I think I've answered this before. I personally, looking at individual teams, I prefer Bailey over Douglas Luiz. I prefer Kudos over Paqueta. And I prefer Elanga over Gibbs White. So if I had to rank them right now, I probably would have... I think Morris is still a good option, so I'd put him in the top three. And then by default, I would have Kudos and I would have Elanga in there. Is Richarlison playing? I'll be very surprised if he returns to the team. The form that Son is in right now, playing as a forward, I just don't think Ange wants to mess about with it right now. I might be wrong. Maybe Ange knows more than me. Who knows? I'll be astonished if a Premier League manager does. No, of course I'm lying. There is a chance Richarlison comes back in, but I'll just be very surprised. The way that he's playing right now, I just don't think they need to overthink it. Son, I think, probably plays as the number 9. Romero over Porro. We spoke about this before. Maybe if you are new to the stream, I think Romero is a very, very good alternative. He is ahead of Pedro Porro in terms of returns. 4 goals a season, the most of any defender. And he's also, in terms of the bonus points, I believe... he is for defenders, 3rd best on 15 ahead of Pedro Porro. So he is a brilliant option if you want to go there 100%. Yet buying Watkins for Solanke, wildcard 31. Okay, so buying Watkins for Solanke. Okay, so I don't mind the move. Watkins with Wolves at home in game week 30 is a good fixture. Of course, are you taking a small risk that he doesn't play this week? You are. Like, there is obviously that problem. And if you don't already have Tony, I probably would go for Tony if you are concerned about it. But otherwise, I like the move. You're getting Watkins in for the next 2, and then you can restructure your team in game week 31. Paqueta, don't mind Paqueta at all. The numbers have been actually okay over the last few weeks. And on penalties as well, I think he is a really good option. Eslam saying, I'm not free hitting and I don't have Watkins. Should I get him? I'm not free hitting. If not, who should I go for knowing that I already have Morris and Tony? Well, if you're not free hitting, then the question is who you're selling. You have to let me know. Ewoni or Morris, I prefer Morris for guaranteed game time. Kawaka's saying, for game week 30, I need a midfielder under 4.8 million to be able to afford Son. currently have my eyes on Mainu, or should I buy someone else? Well, I can't lie. I don't actually have... You're saying that mostly going to be benched. Well, I don't know off the top of my head everybody under 4.8 million, but let's have a quick gander for you now. Okay, so that would be your answer if you could afford it, of course. But Garnacho, I just don't think you will be able to based on what you have said. So Ross Barkley, no. Realistically, looking at the options available for you, I think Hudson-Odoi is a consideration. The fixtures coming up are actually quite favourable, but of course a little bit of a minutes risk. But if he is going to be on the bench for you, then I do not mind him. Outside of that, there aren't many options that are standing out, to be honest with you. Like, a lot of these are defensive mids. Lo and behold, it's a real shame you don't have that 0.1 million to get yourself Garnacho, because that would be the most obvious move of the century. And Ciso could be an interesting one once he returns fully fit from injury at 0.4% ownership. I think he could be a bit of a sly move, but I've just noticed he's 5 million, so you cannot afford him. I do apologise. Just looking if there is anyone else, mate. Not really. Okay, so you're a little bit tight. So what you have put, maybe Mainu, but I don't love it. I would even be more inclined to go Salah, but that probably does block you off of the Spurs triple up, so probably not that route. Hudson-Odoi probably would be the answer, but just because his minutes are at risk, but you are benching him most weeks, so I don't mind it. I'm selling Solanke, as I'm on about selling Solanke to bring in Watkins. Don't mind it. I don't mind it. Just be cautious of. He did go off in the Europa League game. I think we're all expecting him to play, but just be a little bit cautious about that. That's all. Taking Madders for Saka, no wildcard left. For the next two, I really do like it. For the next two, because of course Maddison has a game this week and he has Luton at home, while Saka has Luton, Arsenal followed by Luton. The problem is obviously you cannot bring in Saka back, would be my only concern, because of the Luton game. I think he will be highly owned. I like it, just so I maybe have a plan to get him back in, or sell Solanke for Tony. That one I'm a bit more for, as opposed to the Maddison one. But I think the upside for Maddison is probably there over the next two, especially with the Luton game in Game Week 30. Solanke to Tony, I don't mind, but I think Maddison probably has the higher upside with the next two fixtures. Just seeing. Okay. I might have to wrap this up soon, guys. I've been going for quite a while. I can't go all the way until the deadline, annoyingly, because I do have to do a TikTok live, which is a little bit of a shame, but I do have my obligations on there, so I do need to do that. So I think we are going to wrap it up there, but we're going to do a 5-minute quick-fire Q&A. So for those that maybe haven't asked your questions right now, I think it'd be really awesome if you can fire them off, and I'll go through them. Sorry, I'm just checking. It sounds like James Maddison is available for anyone that's wondering. It looks like he's available based on some pretty legit accounts. So yeah, I think we're in a good spot with Maddison for the moves that I'm maybe a little bit worried about him. Yes. So I'm just making sure I have covered that. Right, guys, we're going to do 5 minutes left. So first and foremost, thank you so much to everybody that has been tuning into this stream. We're going to fly through some of the questions. So I can see we still have over 150 people in the chat. If you can, fire off your questions. I'm going to answer them over the next 5 minutes and get through them all. So please do fire them off and let's get going. So Niall saying, Elanga or Gibbs-White? For me, I think Gibbs-White is the safer option and most likely on penalties as long as Chris Wood doesn't take him off him. But I do think Elanga is a brilliant option in terms of underlying numbers and a bit more explosive. The only concern, of course, is he going to definitely come back into the team? That is the only major worry. So it's all about your risk appetite. For me, I would rather go for Elanga right now. Matthew Perry on free hit. What about Tony and Vissa up top as a double up? Would play Watkins, but I have a strong bench to cover it if he doesn't play. Yeah, do not mind it. Of course, you are then going against Carlton Morris, but I don't mind it at all. Carlton Morris, of course, being on penalties, at home, guaranteed game time, is an attractive option. And the one thing I will tell you is, I think a lot of people who aren't free hitting are going to definitely... Sorry, those that are not free hitting probably do have Carlton Morris in their teams by default. They would have brought him in for the double in game week 28. So just be a little bit cautious. If you don't have Morris and he does well, it is going to be a bit of a big downside on your free hit in general. But of course, the free hit's there to be swinging against it sometimes, the other managers. So yes, I do like Vissa. Just be cautious. Embuemo back into the squad. Could that eat into some minutes for Vissa? Woolly's saying, should I sell Richarlison for Gibbs White to have 11 players? I think Richarlison is a very difficult one. Yes, he is available, but I do think that he probably is going to be like a late sub in that game. If you don't want Richarlison for game week 30, just be cautious. They do have Luton at home. Maybe you want Richarlison in that game if he does return. Morris or Elanga? I personally am going for Elanga based on my team selection. Sorry, that's an absolute lie. I have both playing. If I had to choose one, I probably would lean towards Elanga. I've just got real Elanga hype right now. I don't know why. I'm all for him. Should I sell Richarlison for Gibbs White to have 11 players? Dog's like burying herself in my clothes. No idea why she's doing that. Should I... My dog's being an absolute weirdo, sorry. Should I sell Richarlison for Gibbs White to have 11 players? I like it. Just be cautious that they have Luton at home in game week 30 and he might return for that. Eslam, -8 to bring Maddison and Porro over KDB and VVD. Is it worth it? Yes, but Van Dijk does have a great fixture against Brighton in game week 30 where he could easily return and also an attacking return. So just be a little bit worried about that. But for this week, obviously, I think it will pay off. Sandra Halland, a minute's risk in game week 31. Potentially, yes. Game week 31, of course, for Man City is the Arsenal game. And then we have a midweek against Aston Villa. Look, I think every player is going to be a minute's risk over that period. That is very tight turnaround though. Wow. But he does just play every game, and I think that's a really important game for them. So no, I personally don't think he will be rotated myself. Lilix, when will game week 34 fixtures be confirmed? When will game week 34 fixtures be confirmed? Apologise if you answered already. I believe it'll be before the game week 30 deadline, which would be really handy. What about Matty Cash? I just have no guarantees about his minutes. I do apologise. Trace Thomas, -4 Palmer to Elanga or Gibbs White wildcard game week 31. I think you're going to want Palmer in game week 30 at home against Burnley, mate. Watkins to start. Unfortunately, I just do not know on that one. Your doggy or Pedro Porro? I prefer Pedro Porro, but I think it's very close between the two. Cheslin, I have 9 players, no Maddison or Tony, keeping Foden, Saka and Solanke, -4 for Brentford defender. Don't like a -4 for a Brentford defender just because, like, I have no guarantees that they keep a clean sheet. You have 9 players, no Maddison, keep it. Okay. More Trinity, what's your dog's name? Your name's Winnie, Niall, Bailey or Morris? Thanks. Bailey or Morris? Thanks. Morris for me. Right. That is going to wrap up today's live stream. You guys still have plenty of time until the deadline. So I would, is Souček an option at chat saying, personally, I do not think so. So I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Let me mute that a minute because a fellow YouTuber in the shape of Harry. Oh, is that my door? No, okay. Guys, we're going to wrap it up there, but you need to, if you haven't already, go, well, I mean, if you're following me, you obviously follow FPL Harry, but Harry is a great guy, and you can see just here, for those that are on here right now, look at this. 99.5k. Now, I'm on my other channel here, hence why I'm not subscribed right now, but I am going to subscribe right now because I watch FPL content on my personal YouTube, and I'm on my FPL fan show one, so I don't actually, but as you can see, I've just subscribed, so I'm subscribed now twice to FPL Harry on my personal one and my own one. For those who don't know, FPL Harry is so close to 100k. So if you're on this stream right now, I'm almost certain you probably are subscribed to Harry, but if you're not, do him a solid one. Head over, let him know even in the chat that I sent you over, say Nacho, whatever, sent you, do whatever you want, but be awesome if you're not subscribed to FPL Harry or you're living under a rock and you don't know who he is. Go check him out, go support him. He is so close to 100k, and he's also doing football shirt giveaways as well, which you can see here. Look at those emojis, they're so fun. Basically, he's doing football shirt giveaways, which is sick. So if you are not already, guys, go check out FPL Harry. He's going to be going right up until the deadline. And just a heads up, he's also an unbelievable FPL manager. His ranks are a joke, as you can see on the screen. So go check him out and make sure that you are subscribed. Have an amazing one, guys. I will see you very, very soon.